Well, folks, I've returned to the home of Bill King. Who is Bill King? He is the retired Chief Border Patrol agent. We're going to talk about the border wars that are going on now, the immigration program, and why Arizona is under fire by so many people, including the President and the White House. Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Fine, Ron.
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. 3 years we've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This is about our 8th or 9th or
10th or
10th
11th,
or 11th or interview.
Yeah.
And we're no farther ahead in the immigration program than we were 3 years ago.
We're lucky, but look at my position. I've been at this for 53 years, and it's worse now than when I started.
I know it.
So it's going to go on forever until we wake members of Congress up and the people in the White House that they've got to start listening to us rather than dictating to us about this.
I know. Well, the White House doesn't seem to be listening to anybody
No.
on any subject, but this is critical because the immigration and the flow of illegals over the border is almost bankrupting us. I mean, it's costing us so much.
Right.
To provide services for them.
Last year, I think I just read $113 billion to provide the services and other reliefs for those in the United States. $113 billion is a lot of money.
Wow. It's been pretty quiet. I mean, it really hasn't had a lot of press until Arizona passed their immigration law.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to have even the president of Mexico condemn them for doing that.
Well, you know, the president of Mexico and his predecessors have long been interfering in our domestic area. They have no business doing that. And he, on the other hand, Calderon, is pretty tough on those people coming across the Guatemalan border into Mexico. So I don't really know where the guy stands or how honest he is.
Sure. But what about the Arizona law? You know what? I mean, everybody says it's just trying to do what the law now states.
Let me say up front, it's a good law. And those that are opposed to it are those who are constantly seeking to bring more illegal aliens into this country, principally from Mexico. There's nothing wrong with that law. Some of it has been enacted now as a result of the court orders, but it's still got a ways to go to be complete. And to receive the condemnation it has from, say, Janet Napolitano, who is the director of Homeland Security now, but the former governor of Arizona, where so many of these atrocities and so many tons and tons and tons of illicit drugs are crossing the border every year, and people dying out in the desert. It was just recently that there were 72 migrant workers slain out there in the desert by the cartel people who had been paid to bring them into the United States. They slaughtered them instead.
Wow.
So that law is designed to protect the people of Arizona, and the president and the rest of the White House and many members of Congress on both sides of the aisle are doing their very best to make it impossible to enforce completely. It's wrong. The sheriffs along the Arizona border, as far as I can see, strongly defend what the Border Patrol is trying to do. They've got more people in the patrol now than they've ever had. Their authorized force level is a little over 21,000 people now, and they still can't get the job done. I think they could do a far better job if the government would get out of the way and stop impeding what they're supposed to be doing.
Really?
Oh, yes. On the surface, it looks like they're doing a great job. And the rank and file are. They have done a magnificent job in the face of what they're faced with, but there are so many impediments to the program and enforcing the law that they're stymied. They still arrest a lot of people, but control of that border is something we've got to realize. Sovereignty, for example, is a big thing. Any country has the right to defend its borders, and while we try to do a good job, the people are still coming. Members of Congress, the White House, they don't want to stop this.
Is there any reason behind that?
There are two reasons. It's the dollar in the vote.
Oh, yes.
The dollar in the vote. A lot of members go into Congress with stars in their eyes about what they're going to do, and the promises they make sound good, but they're not in there very long before they've been compromised too. They join with the rest. I mean this. I am, as I said, 53 years of this, watching it grow, grow, and grow. Billions of dollars spent on enforcing the law, maybe, and it's still happening. And the only way you'll ever get it stopped, Ron, is to convince the members of Congress that if they want to keep their jobs, they're going to have to do something on behalf of the American people, their constituents. If you look at the people in Washington who have dollar bills hanging out of their ears, makes a difference. We don't have any dollar bills.
No.
And the vote is very important too, because these people in Congress want to keep their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That may sound harsh, but it's the truth.
Well, you've always said the number one program we have to do is lock the borders up.
Yeah.
And of course, you're in favor of the military, but
Yeah.
the military
Yeah.
won't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
They won't touch it with a 10-foot pole, and it'll never happen. But that's the short answer to reform on the border.
Mm-hmm.
Put the military down there. We've got the right to do it, but it won't happen. There's too much politics involved in that.
Yeah.
I think I told you on one of my visits to Washington, I attended a meeting with one of the think tanks, prominent think tank. John Boehner was there. There were about 25 people in that meeting. And when it was over, I spoke for a little while. One of the people in the audience asked me if he could speak to me outside, and well, he identified himself. He wasn't a high-ranking person, but he was in a position to know how the military felt about the border. And I said, well, what's wrong? He said, they just don't want bad publicity. They send the military down there, they're going to get slapped in the face, and they don't want that. And I said, you mean that's more important than defending our borders? And he said, well, look at it any way you want to. That's unreal.
It is.
But
how many illegals do you think are in our country now?
well, they say 10 to 11. They say it's dropped from 11 million to 10 million.
Because of job.
Yeah, well,
lack of jobs.
The economy is a part of it, certainly. But when you can say things are improving, well, there's still 10 million illegal aliens in the country. That's quite a stretch. I understand we've got about 3 to 4 million here in this state.
Right.
And I think last year we spent, it's a pretty consistent figure, about $10 billion in this state, providing the services that we see necessary to give them. Now, I think I told you too, I was one of the co-founders of Prop 187 back in 1994, and that was a good bill. Let's see, we had 5 or 6 million people vote for it. It was almost a landslide vote, but the governor and the courts, it took about 3 years to get any kind of a decision out of them, and then they said it was unconstitutional or something, so it went on its way. But all it said was, we would deny benefits to illegal aliens short of emergency medical care and other considerations that deal with the humanity of the problem. But gone.
Well, right now it's grown into a very complex situation. I mean, it's not an easy fix.
No, it isn't.
Not only closing the borders, watching the borders, they've assigned 1,800 National Guards, the president, but only 400 are there yet.
Well, you know, I have great respect for the National Guard, but to say that they are in any way helping to enforce the law on the border is ridiculous. They're given assignments that wouldn't involve interdiction. They're not authorized to make an arrest or stop anybody from coming in. They can set up posts along the border to spot people coming in to report to the Border Patrol, but that isn't doing it. If they're going to do it, put the military down there and put an end to it. They could do it. Put them in an assistance role to the Border Patrol and the other agencies, federal agencies that work that border, with the authority to interdict, to say hi as they're coming through is a bit ridiculous, and it's more or less a waste of time as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and of course, if we close the border, what are we going to do with the 10 million that are already here?
Well, you know,
are they going to get total amnesty or?
No, they may, but it would. I hope not over my dead body, but I would do everything I could to help stop it. Amnesty is not the key. Amnesty is a draw. You announce amnesty. I told you a little while ago, in 1986 we arrested 1,767,000 people. That was mainly due to the announcement of that amnesty program. They came in droves. Some people loved it, the counterfeiters who produced false green cards or whatever. They loved it. I think I told you a friend of mine went into MacArthur Park during the Clinton administration with, I don't know how much money he had, but a photo of himself. And he came out a while later with a good-looking green card with his photo in the name of William J. Clinton. That's how hard it is. Did I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Well, I tell you, it's, I don't know whether we will ever be solved or not. Do you think it ever will?
I don't know. I hope. Like you, I'm getting old, so it's not going to make a lot of difference to us.
We won't see it in our time.
No, I don't think so. But I worry about the future of our country, which I love dearly, and I know you do too, and my children and grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. It's not going to be the same country that we knew when we were growing up. It isn't now.
Right. Yeah, we grew up in the best decade of, or the best century, the 1900s.
Yeah, there's no getting around that. But something has got to be done if we are to... We're a republic, not a democracy. And as a republic, we're supposed to be governed by the rule of law. A lot of people have forgotten that. You asked about the 10 million that are here now, if we crack down. That's another way of getting rid of a good part of that 10 million, just through strong interior enforcement, enforcing the employer sanctions law, for example. That passed with the 86 law, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 86, but it was never touched. It's gone unenforced through almost all of these years. But if they put pressure on the employers through attrition, we would lose a lot of people. In other words, if you shut down the jobs, they'd go home. And it would take a long time to do that, but it could happen. So
I know during the 80s, INS would come up here in a bus,
yeah,
and they'd sweep all the restaurants,
yeah,
and they'd pick up undocumented.
yeah,
But they
illegal.
don't do it anymore.
They're not undocumented. They're illegal.
It's ICE's job now, isn't it?
Well, I used to be in charge of this area from Mexicali up through Clark County, Nevada, for Border Patrol. I had an office in Riverside, and I think it's still there. The Border Patrol came up here often, I know. I retired 26 and a half years ago from the Border Patrol, but they made regular sweeps up here. The ICE, this reorganization that they've gone through with immigration and Homeland Security, I don't have much respect for it when I look at it from the standpoint of getting the job done. When they formed the Department of Homeland Security, as you can imagine, there had to be a big play among the managers for the top positions available. And I think we were better off before, when each agency watched over its own requirements. But who knows?
Well, I can keep coming back year after year, and it's not going to change much.
Well, you know, we're smiling, but it's important. It really is important. It's one of the most serious problems facing this nation today. The media won't tell you that. The White House won't tell you that. I don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat sitting up there. They will do a lot. For example, 21,000 people in the Border Patrol today. When I started, there were 1,000 of us nationwide.
Is that for both borders?
Yeah, nationwide.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there weren't many of us in those days. And on top of that, we were cross-designated for Secret Service, U.S. Marshals, and Customs. So we did a lot of other work as well.
Sure.
But it's a problem that has got to be addressed someday, or the complexity, I mean, the makeup of our population is going to change significantly.
That's for sure.
It is now.
It is.
And you know, one thing that's never mentioned, or rarely, I haven't heard anybody talk about this for years, we have millions of people here in the country who entered illegally, who are subject to jail time, really, misdemeanor first offense, felony second offense. Nobody wants to talk about those who are trying to come into this country legally, honoring our laws and our system, because they wait for years, Ron, to get a visa approved so they can come into this country. And they're the kind of people who come with the idea of assimilating, becoming Americans, speaking English, raising their families as Americans. That's not happening with these illegals. But I honor those people who are doing it legally. It's a long wait, it's expensive, takes years sometimes to get that visa to come over here legally. Nobody talks about them. But they're the people that we need. Not these yahoos coming across the border whenever they feel like it and receiving benefits that they shouldn't get from our government.
Right.
So,
well, Bill, my time's up on this particular segment. We could talk for hours, and it seems like we're just talking.
yeah, it does. I don't know, but we talked about 1070 for just a moment, the Arizona law. That's a bill that should be supported by people all over the United States.
I know it.
And those people in Arizona are not being protected by the government that they elect to serve them.
That's for sure.
They are not.
Well, let's hope next few months something good will happen for them.
Well, I hope so. I hope for the welfare of our country, the future welfare of our country, that someday somebody will wake up in the Congress and in the White House and decided to do something about it.
Right.
Eisenhower was the last president who really did anything.
You're right. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You've been talking to Bill King, retired Chief Border Patrol Agent for all this area. Thanks, Bill, so much. We'll get together soon.
Okay, Ron. Good. Thank you.